Miss Alvarez? Yes. I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly. Is there anyone who is not allowed to pick up your daughter? Why? Because someone called twice this week, asked for her by name, and refused to tell us who they were. I felt my stomach clamp down. What number? The daycare director slid a sticky note across her desk like it weighed 100 pounds. 4 digits were smudged where her thumb had rubbed it. The rest was clear. I stared at it, then at the woman's face. She wasn't dramatic. No raised voice. No panic. Just that careful, adult calm people use when they're trying not to scare you, while they're absolutely about to scare you. It came up as no caller ID the first time, she said. Second time it was a number we don't recognize. They didn't threaten anyone. They just kept asking questions. What questions? My mouth felt dry. What time she gets picked up? If she has allergies? If she's been crying? Normal sounding things, but the director's eyes flicked toward the hallway, where tiny sneakers squeaked on linoleum. It didn't sit right. I wanted to say it was nothing. I wanted to smile and thank her and take my daughter's little hand and walk out like the world wasn't full of people who got angry when they couldn't control you anymore. But my phone was heavy in my pocket, like it knew. Did you tell them anything? I asked. No, she said quickly. We don't release information without verification. But the fact that they knew her name and that they called twice, I cut in too fast. Who answered? Different staff members, she said. And they both said the same thing. The caller wouldn't identify themselves. My throat tightened. I nodded like I understood, like I was the kind of mother who had a clean plan for things like this. I wasn't. 2 hours earlier, I'd been in a glass-walled conference room at my new job, laptop open, hair pulled back so tight my scalp ached. The HR rep had slid a paper across the table. Flex schedule approval, signed, stamped, real. It wasn't just a perk, it was oxygen. At this company, flex didn't mean work less. It meant work smart. You hit your numbers, you cover your queue, you communicate like an adult, and no one punished you for leaving at 4:45 to pick up your kid. I'd been chasing that kind of normal since my daughter was born. So when I got the approval, I didn't celebrate with champagne or some inspirational speech about second chances. I stayed quiet. I opened my ticket list. I started working like my life depended on it. Because it did. Back at the daycare director's desk, she folded her hands. Do you want to update her authorized pickup list today? Yes, I said, and my voice cracked on the word. I cleared my throat. Yes, please. She turned her monitor slightly so I could see. My daughter's file. Her photo smiling with a missing tooth and a red marker streak on her cheek from some art project. The sight of her face hit me harder than the phone call. I swallowed. It's just me. And Deborah. On man and Mackleby and I pros. Deborah? The director prompted. Her grandmother, I said. Not my mother. His mother. The woman who'd shown up with diapers and a steady voice when I didn't have either. The director typed. Last name? I told her. She clicked a checkbox. And we can set a pickup password. I hesitated. It sounded dramatic, like I was trying to turn daycare into Fort Knox. Then I pictured a man's voice, casual and patient, asking what time my daughter got picked up. Because the next call wasn't just a question, it was a warning. And Maya was about to find out who had been watching her all along. My skin went cold. Yes, I said. Password. What would you like it to be? I opened my mouth and shut it. My brain flicked through the chaos of bills and deadlines and grocery lists. I needed something my daughter could remember too. Because if someone ever leaned down and said, your mom told me to get you, I needed my daughter to have something to ask back. I thought of the one thing my daughter said every morning, without fail, even when she was half asleep. Sunshine, I said. Make it sunshine. The director smiled softly. Okay, sunshine it is. She printed the updated form and slid it over. I signed where she pointed, my pen scratching hard enough to tear paper. When I handed it back, my hand was shaking, and I hated that she could see it. I'm sorry, I said. Because women like me apologized for existing. You don't have to apologize, she said. You're doing what you should do. What I should do. What I should have done sooner. I forced myself to breathe. Can you tell your staff? If anyone calls again, they should write down the time and whatever they can. And if someone shows up and says they're picking her up, they'll need ID and the password, she finished. And if anything feels off, we call you. I nodded, but my thoughts were already sprinting ahead, tripping over themselves. Because the calls weren't the only thing. For the past week, I'd had that crawling feeling on the back of my neck in parking lots, at the bus stop, outside the grocery store where the carts always had one bad wheel. Like someone was just behind me, not close enough to touch, but close enough to watch. And then there were the calls to my mom. She'd mentioned it like it was weird, but maybe harmless. Some guy asked how you were doing, asked if you were still working nights. Didn't say his name. I hung up. I'd laughed then. Brushed it off. Told her she was watching too much crime TV. Now my stomach turned. I left the office and walked toward the pickup area, where kids were building towers out of plastic blocks. The room smelled like goldfish crackers and hand sanitizer. My daughter spotted me and lit up like I'd walked in holding the sun. "Mama," she yelled, launching herself into my legs. I scooped her up, breathed in her hair, and pretended my heart wasn't trying to punch its way out of my ribs. "Hey, baby," I said, kissing her temple. "You have a good day?" She nodded so hard her ponytail bounced. "I painted a dinosaur." "A dinosaur?" I forced a smile. "That sounds amazing." She wrapped her arms around my neck like she still believed I could stop anything bad from happening just by showing up. I held her tighter. At the sign-out sheet, I wrote my name and the time. My eyes flicked to the security camera above the door. A tiny black eye in the corner, watching everything and promising nothing. Outside, the late afternoon was sharp and bright. The parking lot was a patchwork of cracked asphalt and faded lines. My car sat in the same spot it always did because I always parked under the one light pole that actually worked. I scanned the lot the way I'd started doing without realizing. A minivan. A beat-up pickup. A woman loading groceries into a trunk. Normal, normal, normal. Then across the street, a dark sedan idled at the curb. Not parked, just waiting. The driver's window was up. I couldn't see inside. My breath caught. My daughter wiggled in my arms. "Mama, can we get fries? Maybe?" I said automatically, even though my bank app had told me no this morning. Even though I'd skipped lunch so I could move $10 into a little envelope, I kept in the kitchen drawer labeled Emergency Daycare. I set her in her car seat, buckled her straps, and forced my hands not to shake. Then I closed the door and stood there, keys in my fist, staring at that sedan across the street. It didn't move. A laugh bubbled up in my chest, thin and ugly. "You're paranoid." That's what people said when you didn't have the luxury of feeling safe. They called it anxiety like it was a personality trait, not a reaction to real life. I got into my car, started the engine, and pulled out slowly. As I passed the street, I glanced again. The sedan's brake lights flared. It slid into traffic behind me. My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. My mouth went numb. I made a right turn I didn't need to make. Then another. I watched my rearview mirror like it could save me. The sedan followed. I took a turn toward a busier road. More cars. More witnesses. My heart hammered so loud I could barely hear my daughter humming in the back seat. Finally, at the next light, the sedan drifted into the left lane. It turned away. I exhaled, shaky and furious at myself for feeling relieved. Furious at the world for making me earn relief, like it was something I hadn't already paid for. By the time we got home, my shoulders were aching from tension. I carried my daughter up the stairs to our apartment, passing the neighbor's door with the peeling wreath. Inside, the air smelled like old carpet and the lemon cleaner I bought in bulk because it made the place feel less tired. My phone buzzed as I set my keys down. A text. Unknown number. Just 6 words. Approved doesn't protect her. "You're staying late again?" Deborah asked, looking past me at the laptop already open on my kitchen table. "I'm not staying late. I'm starting early." That's the same thing with better wording. They finally gave me benefits that actually mean something. I'm not losing this. Deborah's jaw tightened. "And that man? The one who's mad?" I stared at my phone. He doesn't get to vote on my life anymore. Deborah didn't blink. People like him don't care about votes. They care about control. The next morning, I was in the parking lot before the sun decided to show up. The air had that sharp, winter bite that sneaks into your sleeves no matter how tight you pull your jacket. My car's heater coughed and wheezed like it was offended I'd asked it to do its job. I sat there anyway, sipping gas station coffee that tasted like burnt pennies, watching the office building lights glow one by one. I wasn't early because I loved it. I was early because the numbers mattered now. Not just my paycheck, the whole package. Health insurance that didn't feel like a joke. A 401 match that made my mom's eyes widen when I said it out loud. The kind of benefits people talked about like they were mythical. And the flex schedule. Approved. In writing. No, we'll see how it goes. It meant if I delivered, if I stayed solid, I could leave at 4:45 without that sick feeling in my stomach that I'd get punished for being a mother. So I walked in like I belonged there. The lobby smelled like clean carpet and fresh toner. A security guard nodded at me like he'd seen me enough times to remember my face. I wasn't invisible here. That alone felt like a luxury. At my desk, I logged in and pulled up my queue. Tickets stacked like dirty dishes. I didn't complain. I didn't roll my eyes. I did what I'd been doing since I was 18 and working my first job at a grocery store. I handled what was in front of me, one ticket at a time. By 8:30, my fingers were moving faster than my brain wanted to. Password resets, access requests, a printer issue that was somehow a business emergency, a VPN problem from a guy who typed in all caps like it gave him authority. I answered, documented, closed, moved on. At 9, Ben passed by my desk with a coffee in his hand, and that manager who actually manages look on his face. "You're here early," he said. "I like winning," I said, half joking, half not. He gave a quick smile. "Good. There's a backlog from yesterday's outage. I'm pulling people to help clean it up. Put me on it," I said immediately. He stopped. "You sure? That's a lot." I'm sure." He studied me for a beat, like he was deciding if this was hustle or desperation. It was both. "Okay," he said, "but don't sacrifice pickup time. The whole point of Flex is you can do this and be there for your kid." I nodded, but my chest squeezed anyway. Because being there wasn't just about time. It was about safety. It was about not letting my daughter become collateral damage for a man's bruised ego. I dove into the backlog, escalating when I needed to, asking questions instead of guessing. I didn't want hero points. I wanted stability. Around noon, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My stomach dropped like it had its own gravity. I didn't answer. I let it ring while I kept my eyes on the screen, pretending I was the kind of person who didn't get rattled by a ringtone. It went to voicemail. A second later, a text appeared. "Busy today?" No name. No context. Just those two words like we were friends. Like I owed them a reply. My fingers hovered over the screen. I didn't text back. I hit block and tossed the phone face down beside my keyboard. Then another thought hit me. Sharp and immediate. Blocking doesn't stop someone who has unlimited numbers. It just tells them they got under your skin. I forced my attention back to the tickets. I kept closing them, kept documenting, kept moving, like productivity could build a wall between me and whatever was circling outside my life. At 2:30, the Daycare app sent a notification. Lena napped 45 minutes, ate half her lunch, mood, happy. I exhaled slowly. Not relief exactly, more like my body unclenched one notch. Happy. Good. Stay happy, baby. At 3, my mom called. I stared at her name on the screen like it was a problem I didn't want to open. I answered anyway. "Hey." Her voice came out too careful. "Maya." My heart started racing before she even said anything else. "What happened?" What, what happened?" "I didn't want to bother you at work," she said. "You're not bothering me," I lied. She took a breath. "Someone called again." My hand tightened around the phone. "Who?" "I don't know," she said, and the frustration in her voice cracked through. "It was a man. He asked how you were doing. Said he was checking on you. Did he say his name?" "No." I heard her swallow. "He asked if you were still working nights." Asked if you were with anyone. My face went hot. Did you tell him anything? I asked, already knowing the answer. I told him I don't give out my daughter's business, she snapped, then softened immediately. I hung up. I closed my eyes. The office noise faded into a dull roar. What number did it come from? A, private, she said. It said unknown. Of course it did. My throat felt tight. Mom, if anyone calls again, anyone don't answer. Let it go to voicemail. If you do answer, by accident, don't confirm anything. Not my job, not where I live. I know, she cut in. I know. I'm sorry. You don't have to be sorry, I said, and I meant it. I just hated that my mother had to think about this at all. There was a pause. Then her voice dropped lower. Maya, who is this? I looked at my screen. A ticket sat open, blinking. A client waiting. A job I couldn't afford to fumble. I kept my voice steady. Someone from my old place. The manager? She asked like she already knew. I didn't answer directly. I didn't want to put the name into the air like it could make it more real. My mom's sigh was heavy. You think he's mad because he lost his job? I swallowed. He didn't lose it because of me. He lost it because of what he did. She didn't argue. She just said, be careful. I am, I said. But the truth was, careful wasn't a shield. It was just a posture, a way of holding your shoulders while the world tested how breakable you were. I hung up and stared at my reflection in my monitor for a second. Eyes too wide, lips pressed tight, then I went back to work. I worked harder, not because I wanted praise, not because I was trying to prove something, because every closed ticket was another brick in the life I was trying to build for my daughter. Every good day on record was another reason the company would keep me, another reason no one could say, she's unreliable. At 4 to 10, Ben messaged in the team chat, great work today. Backlog down 40%. I stared at it, letting it land. 40%. My fingers trembled, not from fear this time, but from the strange rush of, I can do this. I typed back, still pushing. At 4:30, I started wrapping up final notes. A clean handoff, making sure nothing urgent was waiting on me. I wasn't sneaking out early. I was leaving on time because I'd earned it. I shut my laptop, slid it into my bag, and stood up. And that's when my phone buzzed again. Not a call. A text. Unknown number. I stared at it like it might bite. Tell your boss I said hi. My breath caught. I didn't move. I didn't blink. Because there was only one way anyone outside my life would know my boss existed. And the fact that they knew meant something I didn't want to admit yet. I shoved my phone into my pocket, forced my feet to carry me to the elevator, forced my face into something neutral for the ride down. In the lobby, the security guard nodded again. Have a good one. 4 777. Sinsamagown. You too, I said, like my heart wasn't slamming into my ribs. Outside, the air hit me cold and clean. I walked fast to my car, keys threaded between my fingers the way women learn to do without anyone teaching them. I glanced around. Cars. People. Normal. Then, across the lot, a man leaned against a lamppost like he was just waiting for someone. He was too far to see his face clearly. But his posture, lazy, confident, made my skin go tight. I got into my car and locked the doors. My hands shook so hard I missed the ignition the first time. On the second try, the engine turned over. My phone buzzed again. Another text. This one had no words. Just a photo. A blurry shot of a daycare entrance. My daughter's daycare. And in the corner of the image, clear as day, the timestamp read, 4:46 p.m. Maya, don't panic. Just listen to me. Mom. What did he say? He asked if you were still picking Lena up at 5:30. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. Did you tell him? No. But he laughed like he already knew. I swallowed hard. Did he say his name? No. He just said, tell her I'm not done yet. The light turned green, and I moved like a machine, hands steady even while everything inside me buckled. Lena's daycare was still in the photo on my phone, blurry, distant, like a memory someone stole and sent back to prove they could. The timestamp burned in my head, 4:46 p.m. 1 minute after I walked out of my office building. 1 minute after I decided I'd earned the right to leave on time. I turned onto a busier street, then another, letting traffic swallow me. I wasn't trying to play detective. I wasn't trying to be brave. I was trying to get my kid. That was it. Lena hummed in the back seat, swinging her feet like she didn't know the world had sharp edges. She was holding her dinosaur painting from yesterday, folded carefully in her lap like it mattered. It did matter. She mattered more than my pride, more than my fear, more than the part of me that wanted to pretend this was just stress. My phone buzzed again in my pocket. I didn't look. I couldn't. Not with a child in the car and a road full of strangers and my hands already fighting to stay calm. I forced my eyes forward, forced my breath to be slow. In, out, in, out. The car behind me followed through 3 lights. I told myself it was normal. People drive the same routes. People go home. Then I turned early and unnecessary right. The car turned with me. My chest tightened. I checked my mirror again. The same dark sedan, the same dull glare of its hood. I took the next left hard enough that Lena giggled, thinking it was a game. "Mama, we're turning." "Yeah, baby," I said, keeping my voice bright. Just taking a different way. The sedan slowed, hesitated for a beat like it was deciding whether to commit. Then it followed. My throat went dry. My thoughts scattered, grabbing at options like loose change in a pocket. Police station, firehouse, a crowded gas station, anywhere with people, cameras. I drove toward the grocery store plaza instead of daycare. The one with the Dollar General and the nail salon and the little coffee kiosk that always smelled like cinnamon. If the sedan was actually following me, it would have to make a choice in a public place. I pulled into the lot and parked near the entrance under bright lights. My hands were shaking, but I forced them to unbuckle my seatbelt like I did it every day. "Lena," I said, turning around slightly, "we're going to sit here for a minute, okay?" "Why?" she asked, blinking. "Because Mommy forgot something." I lied, smiling like it was normal. She nodded like that made sense, then started singing a song she made up on the spot about dinosaurs and French fries. My phone buzzed again. This time I looked. Unknown number. A text. "Wrong turn." My blood went cold. I lifted my eyes. The sedan rolled slowly through the parking lot, not rushing, not hiding. It passed 2 rows over, close enough that I could see the driver's silhouette. Then it kept going and exited on the other side like it was nothing. Like it hadn't just told me it was watching. My heart hammered. I stared at the screen again, rereading the words like they might change. Wrong turn. My hands moved before my brain could argue. I took a screenshot, then another. Then I opened a notes app and typed the time, the location, the exact words. I'd started doing that after the first daycare call, after my mom's first weird, unknown number conversation. Evidence, a trail, a way to prove I wasn't imagining it if anyone ever tried to tell me I was. I drove to daycare after that, keeping to main roads, staying in traffic, letting other cars fill the space around me. I didn't see the sedan again. That didn't mean it wasn't there. It just meant it didn't need to be visible anymore. At daycare, the director met me near the front desk. Her smile was polite, but her eyes were tight. "Hi, Maya," she said softly. "Can we talk for a second before you go?" I nodded, my stomach already dropping. She led me into her small office again. The same plastic plant, the same stack of folders, the same smell of disinfectant that tried to cover up the reality that children were messy and life was messy and no amount of lemon-scented cleaner could fix that. "We updated the password," she said. "We updated the list." "Thank you," I said. And I meant it so hard my throat hurt. She hesitated. "There's something else." My fingers curled around the strap of my purse. "One of our teachers saw a man near the fence yesterday," she said carefully. "Not on school property, just close. He didn't approach. He didn't do anything illegal, but he was watching the pickup line." My pulse jumped. Did she get a description? Tall, dark hoodie, baseball cap. The director made a small, frustrated gesture. "I know. It could be anyone. Did you call the police?" She shook her head. "We can't call over. Could be anyone. We can file an incident note. We can ask him to leave if he steps onto property. We can do what we can. what we can. That phrase always meant the same thing. We'll help, as long as it stays easy. I nodded like I understood, like I wasn't screaming internally. Okay, I said, voice tight. If he comes again, call me. We will, she promised. And if you'd like, we can walk you out to your car. Yes, I said immediately. Then I forced myself to soften. I signed Lena out. She ran to me with arms open, cheeks flushed, hair messy, sticky fingers reaching for mine like she'd never have to worry about anything as long as she could touch me. Mama, she said, bright and loud. I made a snowman. In class? I asked, laughing because it was the only thing I could do with the lump in my throat. No, she said seriously. In my head. I kissed her forehead. That's a good snowman. The teacher walked us out. I kept my eyes moving cars, sidewalks, fence line, shadows. I felt stupid and sharp at the same time, like prey that knew it was prey. We got into the car and I locked the doors the second Lena's seatbelt clicked. As I pulled out, I checked the rearview mirror. No set on. But the absence didn't soothe me. It only made the whole world feel too wide. At home, Deborah was waiting on the couch, coat still on like she'd been ready to leave at any second. You're late, she said, but her voice wasn't accusing. It was measuring. I detoured, I admitted. Deborah's eyes narrowed. Did you see him? I don't know if it was him, I said, and the words tasted bitter because I hated how uncertain everything was. But someone is playing with me. Deborah held her hand out. Phone. I handed it over. She scrolled through the messages, the photo, the timestamp, her mouth tightening with every line. This isn't random, she said finally. I know. Deborah looked up. You need to tell Ben. My chest tightened. I can't turn my new job into my personal drama. This isn't drama, Deborah snapped. Then she caught herself, lowered her voice. This is a threat. I stared at my daughter, who was on the floor lining up her toy dinosaurs in perfect little rows, humming like the world made sense. I already blocked 3 numbers, I said quietly. He just gets new ones. Deborah's gaze flicked to the window, to the blinds, to the dark outside. Then we stopped treating it like a phone problem. I didn't answer. Because the truth was, I didn't know what it was yet. I just knew it was growing. My mom called again that evening. I put her on speaker so Deborah could hear. He called me again, my mom said, voice tight. This time he asked if Lena likes dinosaurs. My stomach lurched. What did you say? I said, I don't know any Lena. My mom snapped, and I heard anger under the fear. Then he laughed. Deborah leaned forward. Did you recognize the voice? There was a long pause. It sounded familiar, my mom admitted. Like someone I've heard in the background before. My skin went cold in a different way. The kind that wasn't adrenaline, just realization. Background before. Like at my old job when my manager would pace behind my desk while I was on the phone, talking over me, making me smaller. I closed my eyes, seeing him without wanting to. The way he smiled when people were uncomfortable. The way he said my name. Like it belonged to him. I opened my eyes and looked at Deborah. Deborah didn't ask for permission. She took my phone, opened the contact list, and handed it back to me with Ben's number highlighted. Call him, she said. Now. I stared at the screen. Because calling Ben meant admitting this was real. It meant putting my new job on the same battlefield as my old life. And the worst part? It meant whoever was doing this would know they'd force me to react. My thumb hovered over the call button. Then my phone buzzed again. One last time before I could decide. Unknown number. A voicemail notification popped up immediately after, like they knew I wouldn't answer. Deborah's eyes locked on mine. Play it. My fingers felt numb as I tapped the voicemail. A man's voice filled the room, calm and amused. You can block numbers all night, Maya. A soft chuckle. But you can't block me from knowing where you go. The message ended. Silence sat in the apartment like a heavy thing. Lena looked up from her dinosaurs. Mama? I forced a smile that probably looked like pain. I'm okay, baby. Deborah's voice was low and steady. Now you call Ben. I stared at the phone again, my thumb finally moving, when a new text popped onto the screen. 6 words. Like a nail. Hammered in. Tomorrow I'm coming inside. If you file a report, he'll know it was you. My voice came out thin. He already knows it's me. That's the point. Ben didn't look away. Maya, this isn't about pride. This is about your kid. I swallowed. And my job. Your job is safe when you tell the truth early. It becomes risky when you hide it and it explodes later. I flinched like he'd slapped a bruise. Ben lowered his voice. Show me everything. I didn't want to. Not because I didn't trust Ben, he'd been solid since day one, but because I knew how workplaces worked. People said they cared until caring meant paperwork. Until caring meant liability. Until caring meant a manager had to explain why a brand new hire came with a mess attached. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I was trying to keep my life from collapsing in a new place. But then I saw Lena's face in my head, bright, missing tooth grin, humming to herself like she didn't know the word threat existed. And my hand moved. I unlocked my phone and slid it across the small conference room table. Ben sat down, coffee untouched, and started scrolling. The messages looked uglier when someone else read them, like they didn't even need context to feel wrong. Approve doesn't protect her. Wrong turn. Tell your boss I said hi. Tomorrow, I'm coming inside. Ben didn't curse. He didn't make a big show of anger. He just got very still. How long has this been happening? He asked. Since the flex approval, I said. Maybe before. I took a breath. My mom got calls, no caller ID, asking about my schedule. About Lena. Daycare got calls too. Ben's jaw tightened. And you didn't tell anyone here. My cheeks burned. I didn't want to be the problem. Ben's eyes lifted to mine. You're not the problem. You're the person being targeted. I looked away because being called targeted made it sound real in a way I hadn't let it be. He pushed the phone back toward me. Do you know who it is? My throat tightened. My old manager. Ben's eyebrows rose slightly. The one who got fired? I nodded. Because of you? The word landed like a hook. I hated it. Because of his own behavior, I said sharper than I meant. I reported what happened. HR investigated. He lost his job. He told people I ruined him. Ben leaned back slowly. Okay. My laugh came out dry. That's it? Oh, that's me keeping my head on straight, Ben said. We're going to handle this the right way. My stomach twisted. Right way often meant slow. Paperwork, waiting. Meanwhile, my kids still had to go to daycare tomorrow. Ben opened his laptop and typed. First step, we document this with HR and security. Today, my pulse jumped. HR? Yes. They'll think I'm unstable, I blurted. They'll think I'm trouble. Ben's hands paused. He looked up. Maya, you're top 3 in backlog cleanup this week. Your documentation is clean. Your escalations are on point. You're not unstable. You're competent. This doesn't change that. My throat burned. I hated how close I was to crying. Ben continued. Security will walk you to your car for now. We'll flag your badge access. We'll make sure your schedule isn't visible to anyone outside need to know. HR will log the harassment and give you resources. Resources. Another word that sounded good until you had to actually use it. Ben's email pinged a response. He didn't wait. He stood. Come on. I followed him out, laptop bag heavy on my shoulder, like a reminder I was trying to build something here. We walked past rows of desks, people in headsets, monitors full of charts and tickets and chats. Normal work life. People complaining about printers and coffee and weekend plans. I kept my face calm because I didn't want anyone to see fear on me. Fear was the kind of thing coworkers remembered, the kind of thing that turned into whispers. Ben led me into HR's office. The HR rep, a woman with short hair and a cardigan that looked like it had never seen a wrinkle, smiled politely. Hi, Maya, she said. Ben mentioned you needed to discuss a safety concern. Safety concern. Even hearing it framed that way made my palms sweat. Ben sat beside me instead of across. That mattered. I laid out the facts. The calls to daycare. The calls to my mom. The texts. The photo. The voicemail. I didn't add feelings. I didn't talk about nightmares. I didn't talk about the way my body went cold in parking lots. I stuck to timestamps and screenshots. Because in places like this, feelings were optional. Proof wasn't. The HR rep's expression changed slowly from polite to serious. "Thank you for bringing this to us," she said. "Do you have the voicemail saved?" "Yes," I said, and my voice surprised me by staying steady. "I can forward it." "Please do," she said. "Also, we're going to provide an incident report form. This isn't to create a file on you, Maya. It's to create a record of the harassment so we can support you and respond appropriately." "Support, respond appropriately," Ben spoke gently. "We also want to make sure her schedule isn't being leaked somehow." HR nodded. "We'll review internal access to your profile. We can limit visibility and ensure no one outside HR and direct management can view your working hours." My chest loosened a fraction. At least that sounded like an actual step. Then HR said, "Have you contacted law enforcement?" My stomach dropped again. I glanced at Ben, then back at HR. "Not yet." The HR rep didn't judge me. She just asked, "Would you be willing to? We can provide documentation if needed." I swallowed. "I can consider it." Ben's eyes stayed on me. Not pushing, not rushing, just steady. HR printed a sheet. "In the meantime, security can escort you to your car, and we can put a note at the front desk to not release information about you to anyone calling. We can also review camera footage if an unknown person comes to the building." I nodded, gripping my pen like it was an anchor. I signed the report. I emailed the screenshots. I forwarded the voicemail. Every click felt like I was stepping into a spotlight I'd tried to avoid my whole life. But when I thought of Lena, I kept clicking. When we left HR, Ben walked me toward security. The security desk was near the lobby. A tall man in a uniform listened while Ben spoke quietly, then he nodded and wrote something down. "Escort," he said. "Got it." I wanted to disappear. Instead, I stood there, shoulders back, pretending I wasn't shaking inside. Working-class moms like me got good at pretending. We had to. No one paid us extra for panic. On the way back to my desk, Ben stopped by the coffee station. "You're doing great," he said softly. "I don't feel great," I admitted. "That's fine," he said. "You don't have to feel great to do the right thing." I stared at him for a beat. What if he contacts clients? What if he tries to smear me? Ben's gaze didn't flinch. "Then we handle that too. You're not alone here." Per Jaime, not alone. My chest tightened because I realized how long I'd been alone in everything. I returned to my desk and kept working. I worked harder, not because I was trying to distract myself, though I was, but because I needed one thing in my life to stay solid. I closed tickets. I wrote crisp notes. I escalated when needed and solved what I could. My queue ticked down like a heartbeat. At 4:20. Ben pinged me. "Ben, you good to leave at 4:45? Meh. "Yes." "Ben, security escort will meet you at 4:40. I stared at the message, feeling something weird in my throat. It wasn't relief exactly. It was the feeling of someone building a railing next to you when you didn't even realize you'd been walking along a cliff. At 4:38, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. My blood chilled. I didn't answer. I didn't even decline. I let it ring until it died. A voicemail popped up immediately. My hands hovered over the screen. I looked around. People typing, laughing softly, complaining about a system update. Normal life moving like mine wasn't a hurricane. I pressed play with my earbuds in. A man's voice, low, familiar, amused. "I see you finally told someone." A pause, like he was smiling on the other end. "That's cute. You think paperwork stops me?" Another pause. "Tell your boss." "I'm not the one who's scared." The voicemail ended. My ears rang. I pulled out one earbud and stared at my monitor. The words on the screen blurred for a second. Then my computer pinged an incoming chat from Ben. "Ben, heads up front desk, just got a call asking for you by full name." They wouldn't identify themselves. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like I was falling. Because whoever it was, wasn't just circling my life anymore. They were touching it. And then, as if to prove it, another message came through on my phone. A text this time. One sentence. "Let's see if you make it to pickup. Maya, you need to stay inside until security gets there." Ben's voice was low in my ear, calm like a hand on your shoulder. "I don't have time to stay inside. I stared at the clock on my screen, 4:41. He said he'll stop you at pickup. That's not a joke. Neither is daycare closing. Ben exhaled hard. I'm not letting you walk out alone. I don't want a scene. Then we don't make one. We make a plan. My fingers shook as I closed out my last ticket. I'd never wanted anything more than to be normal, just another employee packing up a bag, just another mom leaving work to pick up her kid. But my body didn't know the difference between normal and danger anymore. My shoulders stayed tight. My mouth tasted like metal. Ben appeared at the end of the aisle, a badged lanyard bouncing against his chest. Behind him, the security guard from the lobby walked with the quiet confidence of someone who'd seen enough to not act dramatic about it. Ben didn't wave me over like it was an emergency. He approached like it was routine, like this was how the company did things, like escorting a woman to her car was normal. I hated how much that mattered. You ready? Ben asked softly. I nodded, forcing my hands to move like they weren't trembling. Laptop into bag, zipper, phone, keys. The security guard said, Ma'am, we're going straight to your vehicle. You keep your eyes forward. If anything feels off, you tell me. I didn't like being called ma'am, like I was fragile, but I liked being alive. We walked through the office, past desks and laughter, past someone microwaving leftovers. The normal world kept turning. It felt wrong that it could. In the elevator, Ben stood beside me, close enough that if I fell apart, he'd notice, but not so close it looked like a scene. He kept his eyes on the doors, like he was listening to a sound I couldn't hear. I kept hearing the last text in my head. Let's see if you make it to pickup. Every floor the elevator passed felt like a countdown. When the doors opened into the lobby, the air smelled like lemon cleaner and cold wind creeping in from the revolving door. The security guard scanned the space before we stepped out, eyes moving fast. The front desk staff looked up, saw the escort, and immediately looked back down like they didn't want to be part of whatever this was. I didn't blame them. No one wanted to be part of anything ugly. Outside, the sky was already turning that winter gray blue that made everything look a little bruised. My car sat under the light pole like I always parked it. It looked harmless. Small, like it couldn't protect anyone. The security guard walked slightly ahead of me. Ben stayed on my right. Keys are ready, the guard said. I had them threaded between my fingers, like I was going to punch the world if it got too close. We reached my car. Nothing happened. No sedan idling nearby. No man leaning on a pole. No shadow slipping between cars. My breath came out in a shaky rush I hadn't meant to release. The security guard said, Get in. Lock the doors. I did. The locks clicked like a prayer. Ben bent down to my window. Call me the second you get her. I will, I said. He hesitated. If anything feels wrong, don't go to daycare. Drive to the police station or a firehouse, somewhere public. I can't just not pick her up. You can if you have to, he said quietly. Daycare can keep her inside. You can call them. You can coordinate. Don't let him use your schedule against you. My throat tightened. Okay. Ben stepped back. The security guard watched until my car pulled away. As soon as I turned out of the lot, my phone buzzed. I didn't look. I couldn't. My hands were already gripping the wheel too hard. Lena's daycare was 15 minutes away if traffic cooperated. 15 minutes felt like a lifetime. I forced myself to take the busiest route. Main roads. Lots of stoplights. Lots of people. I stayed behind buses, next to delivery vans, near families in SUVs with cartoon stickers on the back window. Safety in numbers. At the third light, I finally glanced at my rearview mirror. A dark sedan slid into view, 2 cars back. My chest went tight so fast it almost hurt. It wasn't proof. Not yet, but my body didn't care about proof. I changed lanes. The sedan changed lanes. I took a right at the next intersection. Not toward daycare, toward the shopping strip again. The sedan followed. My hands went numb. My ears rang. I didn't want Lena to be waiting while I played cat and mouse with a man who had all the time in the world. But I also didn't want to roll up to daycare with him behind me like a shadow. I pulled into the busiest gas station I could find. Bright lights, security cameras, people everywhere, teenagers buying energy drinks, a dad pumping gas with a kid in a puffy coat, a woman yelling into her phone. I parked near the entrance where the cameras faced. The sedan rolled past slow, like it was reading my license plate. Then it stopped at the far side of the lot, idling, watching. My stomach turned. I didn't call Ben. I didn't want to speak while my voice might crack and make this sound like fear instead of fact. I opened my phone and started filming through the windshield. The sedan's headlights stared back. A minute passed, then another. My phone buzzed with a new text. Unknown number. Smart girl. Still not smart enough. My throat tightened. I forced my hands to stop shaking and zoomed in on the sedan's plate. It was dirty, hard to read, but not impossible. I whispered the numbers out loud as I typed them into my notes app. Evidence, trail, proof. Then I did something I didn't want to do. I called Daycare. The director answered on the second ring. Hello? It's Maya, I said, trying to keep my voice even. I'm on my way. I need you to keep Lena inside. Do not bring her out to the pickup line until I'm physically in the building. There was a pause, just long enough to make my heart stutter. Then the director's voice sharpened into action. Okay. Thank you for telling me. Are you safe right now? I'm at a gas station, I said. There's a car, someone following me. Do you want us to call the police? My throat closed. Yes. No. Maybe. What if the police came and nothing happened and I looked like the crazy mom? What if it got back to my job somehow? What if... I pictured Lena watching the door like she was waiting for someone who shouldn't come. Not yet, I said, hating myself for it. Just keep her inside. Okay, the director said firmly. I'm staying at the front desk. I'll tell the staff. Come straight to the office. I hung up and stared through the windshield again. The sedan was still there. Then it started moving. Slowly, it drove across the lot toward me. My pulse spiked so hard my vision narrowed. The sedan stopped one space away, close enough that I could see the driver's hands on the wheel. The window rolled down halfway. A man's face stayed mostly in shadow under a cap, but I knew the shape of his smile even before I saw it. That casual, pleased smile people wore when they thought they owned the moment. He didn't get out. He didn't have to. He lifted his phone, like he was taking a picture of me. Then he spoke not loud, just loud enough to carry through the space between our cars. Should have stayed quiet, Maya. My skin went cold. I didn't answer. I couldn't trust my voice. He laughed softly, like we were sharing a joke. Then he nodded toward the road, the direction of Daycare. Go on, he said. I'll race you. My hands shook so hard I dropped my phone. When I grabbed it, another text popped up. Unknown number. A single line, like a blade sliding out of a sheath. I'm already there. I'm already there. Will on sign. Falv. I read it out loud before I realized I'd done it. Deborah's voice snapped through my Bluetooth, sharp and steady. Where are you right now? Gas station on Miller. Do not go to the pickup line. Do you hear me? My throat clenched. My kid is there. Your kid is inside. You go inside too, through the front office. I swallowed. And if he's actually there? Deborah didn't hesitate. Then we stop pretending. This is just texts. We make it real. We call the police. The sedan sat one space away from mine like it had paid for the spot. The man behind the wheel didn't need to wave a weapon. He didn't need to step out. His whole game was distance, making me do the math, making me picture the worst. He rolled his window up slowly, like a curtain closing, and then he pulled forward and turned out of the lot. Not fast, not fleeing, confident, like he wanted me to follow. My hands were shaking so hard I had to grip the wheel with both palms just to keep them from floating off it. Lena's voice echoed in my head from earlier. Mama, fries? And the normal sweetness of it made my chest ache. I took a breath that tasted like cold air and old coffee. Then I made myself do the thing I'd been avoiding. I called Ben. He answered immediately. Maya? It's him, I said. My voice sounded too calm, like it belonged to someone else. He's following me. Ben didn't ask if I was sure. He didn't argue. He didn't tell me to breathe. Where are you? He asked. Gas station on Miller. Bright lights. Cameras. People. I swallowed. He was right next to me. He spoke to me. Ben exhaled. Okay. Stay there for 1 minute and listen carefully. I'm calling the daycare director right now. I'm also calling security and I'm going to tell HR we're escalating. My stomach flipped. Escalating to what? 8. Ben's voice hardened, not angry focused. To law enforcement? This is no longer workplace disruption. This is harassment and a threat involving a child. My throat closed. There it was. The line I'd been afraid to cross. Ben kept going. Do you have the plate? Yes, I said quickly. Not sure it's perfect, but I got numbers. I have video. Good, Ben said. Send it to me in HR now. If you can't safely, wait until you're parked somewhere stable. I can send, I said. Thumbs already moving. I didn't look at the empty space where the sedan had been. I didn't look at the road. I kept my eyes on my screen and my hands on the task like it was a job ticket. Attach, screenshot, video, notes. I emailed everything to Ben and the HR address from earlier. Subject line: urgent harassment at gas station. Possible daycare threat. My finger hovered over send for half a second. Then I pressed. A strange stillness hit my body right after. Like I'd finally stopped holding a door closed with my bare hands. Deborah's voice came through again. Did you call him? Yes, I said. Ben's handling it. He's calling daycare. He's calling. Deborah didn't say good job. She didn't say, I told you so. She just said, I'm leaving right now. I'll meet you there. No, I said. Don't bring yourself into this. Deborah's laugh was low and humorless. Sweetheart? He already did. I ended the call and pulled out of the gas station. Not toward daycare yet. I drove to the nearest police precinct like Ben had said, the one I'd passed 100 times without ever thinking I'd need it. The building was plain and square and had a flag out front that snapped in the wind. I parked under the brightest light I could find and sat for 1 second with my hands on the wheel. My chest rose and fell like I'd run a mile. Then I picked up my phone and called the daycare director again. She answered on the first ring. Maya, is she inside? My voice cracked. Is Lena inside? With you? Yes, she said firmly. She's with me in the office. She's coloring. She's okay. My eyes stung. Is he there? There was a pause. Then the director said, we had a man walk up to the front entrance about 5 minutes ago. He didn't come in. He stood outside and stared. One of our staff asked if we could help him, and he said he was waiting for someone. My stomach dropped. Did you get a photo? I asked. Yes, she said, from the security camera. Did he leave? Not yet, she said, and her voice turned sharper. But we locked the front doors. We are not letting anyone in. I called the non-emergency line the moment he appeared. I closed my eyes. Thank God. Thank God she didn't worry about looking dramatic. Okay, I whispered. I'm at the police station. I'm about to walk in. Good, she said. And Maya, don't come here alone. I won't, I promised. I went inside the precinct. The lobby smelled like old coffee and disinfectant, like every place that processed too much human stress. A woman behind a glass window looked up. Can I help you? I took a breath, trying to keep my words clean and simple. My name is Maya Alvarez, I said. I'm being harassed by a former manager. He's using block numbers. He's contacted my child's daycare and my mother. He followed me to a gas station just now and threatened to show up at pickup. He is outside my child's daycare right now. The woman's expression changed immediately. Do you have proof? She asked. Yes. I held up my phone with trembling hands. Text, voicemail, photo, video, and I wrote down the license plate. Okay, she said, already standing. Wait here. A minute later, an officer came out mid-30s maybe, tired eyes but steady voice. He didn't treat me like I was hysterical. He treated me like I mattered. Miss Alvarez, he said, tell me exactly what happened starting today. So I did. I told him about the flex schedule approval, the first daycare call, the calls to my mom, the photo, the voicemail. You can't block me from knowing where you go. I told him about the gas station, about the man who rolled his window down and said my name like he owned it, about the text. I'm already there. The officer listened, writing, asking clear questions. Dates, times, locations, names of witnesses. When I finished, he nodded once. This is enough for us to respond. I'm dispatching units to the daycare now. My knees nearly gave out from the relief. Will you tell him to leave? I asked. We'll identify him, the officer said. If he violates trespass warnings, restraining orders, or makes threats, we'll act accordingly. The words weren't a promise of perfect safety, but they were a promise of action. I gave him the daycare address, the director's name, Ben's contact, the plate number, everything I had. He asked me to forward the messages to an evidence email. I did. When I stepped back outside, the air hit my face cold and clean, like it was trying to wake me up. My phone buzzed Ben. I answered immediately. Ben? I'm on with the daycare director, he said. Police are en route. HR documented everything. Security saved the front desk call logs. You did the right thing. My chest tightened. I don't feel like I did, I admitted. That's okay, Ben said. You don't have to feel brave. You just have to keep moving. I blinked hard, staring at the flag, snapping above the precinct. Deborah's on her way, I said. I figured, Ben replied. Listen, do not go to daycare until police confirm it's clear. Stay at the precinct or somewhere public. We'll coordinate with the director. Okay, I whispered. 5 minutes felt like an hour. 10 minutes felt like 2. Then the daycare director called me. Her voice was low, controlled. Maya. Police arrived. My lungs stalled. And they spoke to him outside. She said, he tried to claim he was the child's family friend. He couldn't provide the password or any authorization. They told him to leave. He argued. Then he left. My knees went weak with relief so sharp it hurt. Is Lena okay? I asked again, because I needed to hear it twice to believe it. She's okay, the director said. She asked why we were coloring in the office. I told her we had a special quiet time. She's still coloring. I pressed my palm against my forehead, eyes closed. Thank you. Come get her when you're ready, the director added. We'll bring her to the front after we confirm everything is secure. I let out a shaky breath. For the first time all day, the air went all the way to the bottom of my lungs. I sat back in my car and stared at my hands. Working hands. Mom hands. Hands that had typed tickets and buckled car seats and signed HR forms, and now filled out a police report like it was just another thing on the list. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I froze. Then another text appeared, slower than my heartbeat. You called the cops. Proud of you. My skin went cold. A second message followed. Next time, they won't get there first. And at the very bottom, like a signature, 6 words that made my stomach drop again. See you tomorrow at your job. When safety is at stake, silence isn't strength. Document everything, lean on support, and act early, because a mother's job isn't to endure fear, it's to protect her child and keep moving forward.